Okay, let's just read this. 46 says, investment planning. Mary Ellen plans to invest $18,000, putting part of the money X into savings that pays a 5% annual, I think they mean interest, and the rest into an account that pays 8%. Oh, okay. So, do you guys understand what they're saying? Mary Ellen's she has $18,000. And she's going to put a certain amount into one account that pays 5% interest, and whatever's left over is going to go into another account that pays 8%. So we need to write, it says, what are the possible values in this situation? Okay. What are the possible values in this situation? And then it says, if Mary invests X dollars at 5%, write the equation that describes the total interest received from both accounts at the end of the year. And then C, we're asked to graph and trace the estimate. D, we're going to be asked to use the grapher to generate the table of values to find out how much she should invest. So here's the thing. Probably there's one combination that'll give you the most amount of money. Right? If she takes all the money, well, obviously, if you put all of it in the 8%, that would be the best, right? But maybe she doesn't want to do that because the 8% account is a little more risky. So she wants to find like a nice balance, okay? So the first step is we need to define, part A says, what are the possible values for X? Now, if they say, what are the possible values for X, what's a fancy algebra word for possible values for X? Well, function, but what part of the function focuses primarily on the X's? It's a fancy word. No. Starts with the letter D. They want to know the domain. So X represents the amount of money that she's going to put into this account. How much could she put in? 18,000, right? And what's the bare minimum she could put in? 0, right? So she could put in 0. So if I wanted to write that in set interval notation, I could say 0. Oh wait, 18,000. Did I write that correctly? We're including 0, so what should I do? I should use a bracket, right? Okay. That's part A. Part B says, if Mary Ellen invests X amount of dollars at 5%, write the equation that describes her total interest. All right. So to calculate the interest, she's going to take X amount of dollars, and what do you multiply the X by to get the interest? 5%, which is what as a decimal? 0.5. So I'm going to say 0.005x. Now, what about the rest of the money? Let's assume that she doesn't invest all 18,000. Is she going to earn interest on that as well? Yeah. And how much? What's the interest rate on whatever's left over? 8%. So it's going to be, and what's 8% as a decimal? 0.08. So if I have 0.08, how do I represent the money that's left over from the 18,000? You start with 18,000. I take X amount of dollars and I invest it in the 5% account. Whatever is left over, I'm going to invest right here. Huh? Well, if I put X, it's the same amount that I invested here. No, there's gonna be an X over here. Well, how do I do that? 18,000 minus x. Because I'm starting with 18,000 and I'm subtracting x amount. So if I have $2,000 here, how much should be here? 16,000. If I have $5,000 here, how much would be in the parentheses? 18 minus 5,000, which is 13. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's part B. That's our equation. Part C says, graph and trace the estimate of how much Mary Ellen invested at 5% if she earned $1,020 in total interest. So what they want to know is, how much money did she put in for X to get $1,020 in interest? So how do we do that on our calculator? In other words, what the question C is really asking us is, what do we plug in for X to make this statement true? How do I find that on our graphing calculator? Well, we graph both functions. So what I would do is I would graph my linear function, which is 0.05 times x plus 0.08 times the quantity 18,000 minus x. And what do we want to find out when it equals what number? 1,020. Did I write that down? Was that what they wanted? Yeah. And so now when I go to set my window, we have some pretty big numbers. What is the domain? What do I set my x values to? What is my domain? What should I set my x values to? 0 to 18,000. But I'll do a little bit more. I'll say 18,001. Now what about the y? Are we ever going to have negative $1? No, so I could set that to 0. Now the question that they're asking us is, when they get $1,020 in interest, so my y max should be at least 1,020. So what do you guys think we should put? At least 1,020, right? So let's do 1,030. Okay? Now let's hit graph and see if it'll fit. Oh, that's, can you see where the two intersect? Could we make it a little better? How do I fix that so we could see it a little better? I could zoom in and out, but how do I set the window? This is where we're interested at, right? Over here somewhere. So how do I zoom in right there? Move the X to what? What do you suggest? What do you guys suggest? Well, our X was set from 0 to 18,001, right? We don't need to go all the way down to 0 because that's wasted space. So what could I change that to? Somebody give me a number. 10,000? Let's see if it makes a difference. Okay. Now the y thing's the issue, right? So now we need to change the y. So what do we change the y to? How about we do 1,010? A little bit below and a little bit above our point of interest. Now if we hit graph, so now what do we do next? Find out where they intersect. So if I hit second calc and I come down here to intersect, it's going to ask me to find the first curve. Hey, we got lucky, the cursor is right on the intersection, right? And what does that say? Oh, you guys can't see it. Let me zoom in a little bit. 14,000. So what does that mean? That means that x is 14,000, right? Well, tell me what that means with relationship to this problem. What did Mary Ellen do? She put $14,000 into the 5% account, took the remaining $4,000 and put it into the 8% account, and after 1 year she earned how much in interest? 1,020. We're not quite done yet. We need to do part D. Part D says use your grapher to generate a table of values for I to find out how much you should invest in the 5% to earn $11.85. So now we're going to do the exact same thing. For part D, what they want us to do is the exact same thing, but instead of using the graph, so they're going to change the amount to $1,185, and still the same function or equation. And we're going to use our calculator to find the answer, but we're not going to graph two lines. What we're going to do is use the table of values and try to find 1185. So if I hit second table, what I'm looking for is when this y sub 1 equals 1185. So I have to keep going down, 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 until y equals 1185. Boy, that'll really take me a long time, won't it? So how can I change that? Well, we know that it has to be greater than 14,000. Am I going to hold this forever at 14,000? I could. Wouldn't you like to know a shortcut? So these are the table of values, and I notice I've got like table set right here. So I'm going to hit second table set. Oh, it shows me that I could start the table at 93 or any number I want. So what should I put? Could be 14,000. Could be lower, could be higher. Where would you like to start? Well, think this through, okay? Well, let's do it. Let's do it. 14,000. There it is. Boom. Second table. Hey, now we start at 14,000. But what's our interest rate? Our interest is Y1, and we're looking for 1185, right? We're looking for this number, 1185. And do I got to go up or down? Well, it increases as I go up. Boy, that sure does take a long time. Should I try a different number for my table set? Okay. What do you want to try this time? Let's try 10,000. 1140. I'm closer. What am I looking for? 1185. So let's keep going up. Well, that's still taking too long. Let's try another one, okay? What should we try now? Let's try 9,000. Closer, 1170. Let's see if we can get there. Still taking too long. Let's try 84.99. So what would you guys put? What is your X value? There's some rounding that's taking place, right? But 1185 starts at 84.99, 8500, 8501. What would be a good answer to say? 8500? Sure. We could say this happens at about 8,500. So somebody tell me in regular English, what did we just do?